tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born in this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. Pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Thus free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is a teaching of Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the faults and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Page 15 for the Heart Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on massive Vulture's Mountain in Rajgriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perfection. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. The power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra, said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance and no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Putra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell on the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear, Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment and reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Taya ta gade gade paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the bodhisattva mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the bodhisattva Arya Amgachavara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you've indicated. Even the Tadikas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avgachavara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised at spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25 for the mandala. Saji poke suchi me to trom re rong wen ni de gen party sange jing du ming te wagi drogon nam dak jing la cho pa sho jetsun lama dampa ke nam ki choku kala ken se chen jing jeta sampe do jason mala sange choke cha pa bak tu so Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnayatayami. Over the page. Sange Charan Sokhe Charam La Janjo Baru Regne Kam Suchi Dagi Chinyenge Peso Namki Drola Penche Sange Rupash Sange Charan Sokhe Charam La Janjo Baru Regne Kam Suchi Dagi Chinyenge Peso Namki Drola Penche Sange Rupash Sange Charan Soge Charama Janjo Paru Rene Kapsuchi Dagi Chinyenge Peso Namki Jola Penchi Sange Gopash.
Lam Rim ding tekwachime chö re tekwachime chö nane chö gi ningu ro chi cha yo re ne de le gi chö de zo tekwachime chö zo kunong la le gi yo ro kunong de tekwachime se ya de ne simje 신 탐제 yi de den ru ya chi gi le ga chi ni ji le shi gi yo ra nyam ne je dang nang gi de ring gi zi ra ni ya de ne ra ni ji bu gi ji de den ru ya chi de ma yin ba 네, 랑가린 시베 심지 탐제 라편보 바시도야시네. 닝기 요 선배분 꾸노. 야고직제 쇼스.
First, adopting the correct motivation for listening to this class on the Lam Rim, the middle length stages on the path to enlightenment, which is in fact the great vehicle of the Mahayana, which is the essence of Dharma. Not just that it is the great vehicle, though, our motivation should be such that we wish to fulfill the purpose of all sentient beings. In that context, listen to the class not just for you, but solely to benefit the kind sentient beings, to benefit them.
아야 나 가고로 드린 거는서 내 지금 출자 좀 좀 저를 고기 총어디 네 개와상 뭐 인티지 가고 그랬어
Rejoice that again today such holy Dharma falls into one's ear. Rejoice in that regard, in the fortune.
아야 따뜻한 거 람림 시에들 아니 대진 숨도 쉬고라 네 람림 숨고부터 수레스로 저번 저와 대케주 카르카리미 아 추지 쳐와 스타트 나온서 추지 쳐 간시에 추디라 니 체주로 근데 요래 펜도 카리 요래 근데 요레스 근데 체주 니단데 추디라 님바단 셰바 근데 저거레스 이제 대진 숨나라 아니 도스투데 요레스로
We are approaching this topic of the sequential stages on the path to enlightenment, the Lam Rim, with three headings or subheadings in mind. Firstly, looking at what are the qualities of the author of the text. What kind of qualities did the author possess? Secondly, what are the qualities of the Dharma that they expounded? For example, what are the benefits of studying such Dharma? And then thirdly, in context of that Dharma, how to listen to it, how to teach it. 3.
아던다 추이 쳐셔야들랑도 아니 디진 싫어지로 템바튼제 게임도 봐 순로 담제 당아지 차이 차이 다 디니 로셈 버레 템바튼제 게임도 없으디 아니 먼저 미망보지기 직 초증 양련시나 직직이요 말해서 개와요도 시기요라 근데 개와요 말에 템바탐제 간사직 네 산제에 남지림바다 저 뒤제 심규디에 아니 림발 송인자 아니 심제게 메와 남만나서 유인자 대단 팀베 최 남만나서 뭔가 송샤디 좀 된데지 송베 최 탐제는 겨와민도 심규디에 탈란 송부 바시레자 때마담제 게메도 더 배쳐와스 저 당부디 싫어
Okay, we then began to look at the presentation of the text that possesses four greatnesses. The first one, the greatness of understanding all the teachings as without contradiction. Secondly, the greatness of all Buddha's teachings occurring to you as instructions. We went through these first two. The first one of understanding the teachings as being without contradiction. Some people might say that you should practice some parts of the teachings and yet not practice other parts. That is not the case. The Buddha doctrine is solely for the purpose of presenting a path of leading that one being to Buddhahood and subduing their mind in that regard. And just as there are different dispositions of sentient beings and proclivities, so there are different teachings, different dharmas to guide them.
다디 당부디 템바탄제 게메도 배쳐와디 용나 아니 치마디니 숨디 연구래 송라 탐제 당아디 차왔어 당아서야디 예외 공부하다 중천부 송라도 상마 아니 당아서디 심기디베 탑란디 고그래서 개와요 말해서 가르쳐와요 말해서나 아니 탐제 심지 산제 이고마토야기라 아니 도요레 심지지 된치야라 아니 송레스지 코연데 아니 좀 내리기 송배 송랍도 여러와 송랍 공개되죠. 디자인데 여러와 가셔야지 디 친이다야래 대초 냠네 말했어요. 된데요 뭐 송랍 탐제 좀 내리기 송랍 공개된 제와 탐제 아니 당아디 치체에 채워디 뭐 가르즈나 가담 봐서도 송랍다 파셔는 이게까지기네 아니 심규디베 탑란데 캐시 바지 중나 송라담제 당아디 차에 채워서야 돼 니바디 연구 요래스라
So that notion of understanding that all the teachings are without contradiction. If you get this first greatness, then the latter three greatnesses will follow suit. So, for example, if you understand that all of the scriptures, the vast scriptures, are all for the purpose of subduing the minds of sentient beings, you know, everything that the Buddha taught in terms of the Sungrup, meaning Buddha's instructions, his speech, some might doubt and say, oh, that's logic, that's cognition, you don't need to study that. It is not like that. All of the teachings that Buddha gave were coming for the intention to enlighten sentient beings, and let alone all of them dawning as instructions. The second point, even kadampa, this new tradition, even one syllable that Buddha gave was for the purpose of leading beings to Buddhahood, let alone the vast scriptures. No.
다드네 숨바디 개외 공부 될라디 니베 채워서 디 겨워스르 tumba 좀 낸데 이 공부에 가려서라나 아니 수라 공대다 제와다 탐제 아니 당하기 초 가려서는 심규디에 탑란데 숨바디 하고 그래서
Right, so that brings us to the third greatness, or the greatness of allowing, page 9, if you have the text at the bottom, the greatness of allowing you to easily discover the victor's intention. Although the great texts, the scriptures along with their commentaries are the best advice, they are for the sole purpose of, that, once you understand that, purpose of subduing sentient beings.
아지나 수라 공대다 제와다 탐제 당하기 초래서 봐. 중체와 남성도 중체보다도 당하기 초래서 이나야다 레당모 망보지기 근데 다 지금 하고 말했어 봐. 아니 기부담배 기부지기다 말마디나 또 말했는데 일단 단다갑디 람린 등고디 람에 아니 맹아 이전 잠배라서 맹아라 때네 지 두절레 당보도 어디오당 라르 랜데보다 근데야 지도 람린 등고디 때네 아니 기억을 예배 똑바디 용그래서
So, having said that, the great texts, the scriptures and their commentaries are the supreme advice. Although that is the case for beginners, without having someone explain that great advice in their commentaries, it might be difficult for them to get it. So in that context, in the middle links, Lam Rim with Manjushri's fifth instruction, then the stages of the path to Buddhahood become easy to understand and easy to apply.
아다 딘데게 삼로지 정보이나 아니 시와디 니제 첨부랑가스도 사디 코란 영향을 벌어서 가르스나 갑디 니와 체슈디 가르나서는 뭐 초봉길래 봐.
야,
초봉길래 배차잖아. 낭발라 차시나 티젠 팅메요. 팅메도 추연염내 치기요 말했어요. 당연하죠. 태보 첨부를 해나야. 나은염내 치기요 말했어요. 얘네야 가시에게 길룩디 쳐요 말했어요. 사자 쳐요 말 닝마 쳐요 말했어요. 수수 길룩이나 사자가 주닝마도 들라다로 정고 말했어요. 제 셰위나 딘데기 셰니들라 초봉길래서 대 초봉길래데 아니 예와 첨부 임바르와 디그리 첨부 임바르와 제가 최봉에 레서 디그리 첨부 인자 아니 요 수라 담제 당하듯이와 개와 공부 될라니와 디 중나 아니 딘데 첨부 레다 단한식으로 아다 베레다 좀 낸데지 송레 예네 맞아 셈질레 펜베치들에서 딜레야지 쿠이세단 쿠이샤단 딘데 연구라면지 디 요즘 지기요 말에 디 펜도 말에 식마로 디 마셔나 디 랭임바디 빵도도 와서 초몽글레 니제 첨부랑가스도 와서데 어디 시바디 턴다디 레스로
so this fourth greatness on the top of page 10, the greatness of a misdeed stopping by itself. If you understand those first two, then automatically this one will not occur, this misdeed, because this misdeed is the worst type of karma one could create. Chupumgile is the karma of deprecating dharma. Example would be if you're either a great vehicle practitioner or a root yana, lower vehicle practitioner. And for example, if you're lower vehicle and you say, oh, great vehicle dharma, Mahayana, that's not dharma. To look down on it and claim it's not what Buddha taught her. Consequently, if you're a great vehicle, to say the lower vehicle doesn't exist or is not valid, or even as a great vehicle, a Mahayanist, to say that Buddha never taught mantra, that's not dharma, or even within the different lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, to say that either lineage is not dharma. So, for example, if you're Sakya, to say that Kagyu Nyingma Gelugpa are not valid, or from a Gelugpa's perspective, if you deprecate the other traditions of Sakya, Kagyu and Nyingma, this would be an example of this misdeed. But what stops that, if you really understand those first two greatnesses, that all the teachings that Buddha taught are not contradictory, firstly, and then secondly, all of the instructions done as advised, then automatically you will respect, you will respect that everything that Buddha taught was for sentient beings to lead them to Buddhahood, and then you'll understand them as advice and you won't have this misdeed of deprecating dharma.
Okay, so the chub the they pent mare, the yamle chigu mares in the lavina. The chubongi lay hajan shukchambore, de kunlayane, things in Jew dollar, Sunda Kangi Zambu, Lingdini, Chuden Tamje Shikcheo, Kangi Dodi Ponchewa, Diwatin Cheba, Kangi Kangi Chunu, Dajun Seva Joan, de la Beni Shadwa, and so ni Zambuling the Kandin Yog Chuden, you're not Chuden Tamje Ma Shikshavina, Dig Diwadilea, and Dodi Ponwas, and Chubongi Le Savadi, and Diwachavare Serva.
So then the text goes on to give a citation or a source of the negativity of the karma of obstruction of abandoning the Dharma. So we have from the King of Concentration Sutra, someone here in Jambudvipa, meaning this world system, tears down all the stupas found. Someone abandons a class of sutras. The latter's bad action is far more serious. And secondly, someone even murders arhats, as many as... Yeah. Okay. So then those two give an example of that misdeed, how great it is.
제자다 베니와들라 아니 강gelung이 체만이 왔으니 체만이 단단히 다좀 말어 다좀 버세베 있나냐 근데다 다좀 버세스도 만도 체매이 레시나네다 디버 좀 보시고 다좀 버세 다좀 버세네 참에서도 겨치마 아니 디버샤 와당 다지 녀부터 주고네 디버샤마도나 겨치마들라 람산야올 기도에서 체매래서 그러 근데 강gelung이 체만이 단단히 다좀 버세벨레장 아니 초본지래 디버 침보래서 어디 베니고네 소용으로데.
Second example, someone even murders our hearts, as many as sand grains in the Ganga. Someone abandons a class of sutras. The latter's bad action is far more serious. So we know that taking or murdering an arhat is one of those unrelenting karmas where it's heavy, that if unpurified, you go straight to the hell realms. But even abandoning a class of sutra is worse than that. Second example.
네, 딘데셰기로 배낭한서 수수 제약이 최 둘다텔라 착신전으로 와. 그래서 아니 배낭 낭배취디야 그래서 가지 이슈도 야고 말했을라. 들려드네 차단기도 와.
야.
다 낭배취는 티진취디야 오래 팀에서 수수 티진을 찾으러 와.
야.
다 티진안에 마니야 지 수수가랑서 퍼규 난데들 차. 퍼규 난데라 난서 난세 담을 여러 봐. tilcha shinla dambayina chadan phegido ko ba 아니 먼저 최지하게 그런데 가려라는 차단 요르다야로 와.
Yeah,
아니 최지하고라게 차단 숙제를 줘나? 아니 이러와 하드디 파와스야로 와. 예상 멘토디 교로 와스야로 와. 다 베드네 요로 와.
right. So this is really talking about attachment to one's own view. So if you cling very strongly, saying, "Oh, Buddhism is best," and in that context you look down on Islam or Christianity, that's how it works in a doctrinal sense. But within Buddha Dharma, if, for example, you cling to Mahayana and you look down, or you have aversion to Hinayana, that's how it works within the Buddha Dharma, or as was mentioned, within the Tibetan traditions, of which there are a few, to be attached to one and to have aversion to another, is an example of this, because the sole purpose of Chö or Dharma is to reduce our attachment and aversion. And if you start clinging to a particular view with attachment saying it's best, then you're doing the opposite of that. So that's not the purpose of Dharma.
어디 제가 다디 예제 정보랑 가서 들어왔지. 쭉 쳐와디 쳐와. 다 순바디 쳐원이던 님이 쳐는 이제지다 쳐와. 쳐원이 가래 저업이 쳐와다 추리 쳐원이로. 근데 쳐들라 아니 년바당 셰베츠 안투무디 족디 투무스레스는 년게 세계니 투무 많이 봐. 다도 저야 왜요랑 저 쳐인도 간대셔 그래. 최신이 아니 사모 간대 땅고래. 도저 탈락이 여러 봐. 저 먼저 최 단당 알아서
So next subheading at the bottom of page 10. So how the teachings possessing those two greatnesses, meaning those first two, should be listened to and explained. This is a very important point, because if the Dharma possesses, as it does, those greatnesses, how should one listen to the Dharma? How should it be taught?
나도 주 년배 주들이야. 다들 좀 최퇴외 주년의 최퇴의 편유. 최다 최모모를 림도 계주. 아니 니중은 세대전 숨시기도 알아.
So then, in terms of how to listen, there are three subdivisions. So page 11 now, thinking about the advantages of listening to the Dharma, developing respect for the Dharma and those who teach the Dharma, and how does one actually listen? So three.
다 최퇴버들라 네 퇴외 편유시는 퇴외 좀 내서와.
네.
퇴외 최는 시월 주스라. 최퇴는 최 싱그레스. 아니 최신스는 아니 디본 기루도서 야고 용거와. 최퇴외 디번은 또 같이 그랬어. 퇴외 퇴만이 바빠와 그랬어. 퇴신인데 퇴만이 본다고라. 퇴외 냥에 되어도 퇴발라 되네. 다 고와당 고발레 대외 냥지 묘모다. 지 근데기 용고들에 냥데 가바토 그랬어 이제. 어떤 데서도
And there is a quote here from verses about listening. Through listening, you come to know phenomena. Through listening, bad actions are reversed. Through listening, meaningless is abandoned. And through listening, nirvana is achieved. So firstly, by listening, one comes to know the phenomena. Secondly, by listening, one learns how to reverse non-virtue. Thirdly, through listening, one abandons meaningless activity. And finally, through listening, one knows about the merits of samsara, how to actualize nirvana.
제가 시제 퇴발라 때네 림바시 랑도르진네 시와스로 다 저르무진 퇴발라 때네 안수주지 랑자카르에 도저라서 두지신야 아니 시에네 예줄에 도베네 직투dunya고 용야 아니 델라데네 퇴마인 볼라야 하고도 개베 미고라 심치다 되어가 네베 띵인진 겨스 하데 저르무진 용야데 네데 송고도 시네지 미고가들라 개베미고라 심치다 되베 띵인진 지그리에 송데 아저저 먼저 배 랍자 개천보래로 아주 곰자데 소소식 샘마기오라지네 데기고서야 쉐데 다가시 굴로야 오메비체 지 다랑 수수 지고 그 동네에 대해서 상담하디 아니 데 시부시부지 데 펜심나라 가나한다 페나한다 시부용고 손남 싸게요 말아 다지 옥중우지 미과 샤비네 양지 가서 그래 꿀론디 아니 꿀론 개와지 시네야 지 디기어레 심디네 인디오 호텔데네 손남지 싸용 거라 개지슈티 개베 미과스 개월미 개베 지 참바 제와 쇠바 아니 신빈지야 아니 대화 낸델미 대화 꿀존미 대화 어떤 데가 심샤베나 심 네베 쇼라 개와들라 되네 소놈사야 텔라데네 심라 도와지야 텔라데네 심 타와야야 심랑 아슈글이야 저 용무여와 어디다 내가 전부 쉬우지 레도 하러
And Lama Tsongkhapa goes on to highlight these 4 lines by saying that through hearing, one comes to know what to adopt and what to abandon on the path. Secondly, how to engage in ethical constraint, keep good morality. Thirdly, how to abandon meaningless activity. And finally, with regards to a concentrated mind, how to focus the mind on an object of virtue. This last point is very important for us. In terms of advice for us meditating, we like to meditate, but we might think that when we set out to meditate, we are removing problems just for our own happiness. And that might not be quite the point or getting to the great benefit of what Lama Tsongkhapa means to place the mind in virtue, because placing the mind in virtue could mean just if you do it with correct motivation and you just focus on the breath, in that short time one can create merit and have powerful. But what is a virtuous focal object? If you have loving kindness as a focus, great compassion, if you have patience, the beneficial intention of bodhicitta, faith in the law of behavioral cause and effect, faith in the 3 rare sublime ones. And if you place your mind single-pointedly with those as the focal object, then the virtues you make are strong and the mind can abide strongly, but also with joy. So this is a big point here.
디네스고도 디네스니 당부시다 디네스네 다시 딩인지 토벌라 디네 시네 토벌데 용그레스 아니 시네 톱차스나나 디네 니 다메베 퇴 랄랍제 토버체벌라 디네 다메베 퇴 라네 엔 다메도베 니 셰럽 용그레스 셰럽디 요나 아니 다메도베 셰럽네도 니 코와칭메 자와체네 남르 토버죠세다 먼저 코와칭 와세데 먼저 단다디 알아서 동네 먹고시 비시 있다 점링들은 거에서 통하여 봐 알아서 거에서 처변나는 연다 연심만 먹고시 여러 봐 디제 그 짜와디 디문단지 말을 버레스 아니 담에도는 디니 체로 그래스 디처는 아니 안도 차다 매워 차로 그래 차다 매워잖아 차다 온게 안당한서 동네 먹고시 중요해야 되게 연구 말에 디면은 아니 거 뒤제 남들시 녀모 남래 아니 친구 남래 아니 트레베 남들이 남 타바타바디 용그레스다 디송고라티 퇴백이 편식을 따라.
Then Lama Tsongkhapa goes on to say, once one has cultivated the stable mind of shamatha or calm abiding, one can gain wisdom, the wisdom of non-self. So one comes to know the suchness that is selflessness. The root of samsara's fetters is cut, and you attain liberation. So one comes through hearing to understand, applying wisdom, how we're bound within the constraints of cyclic existence. And if we look at the world today, people are going through a lot of problems. Why? Because there is this unawareness or ignorance that grasps at true existence. But if you cut those fetters, then chadangilo, the twofold delusions of attachment and aversion are uprooted, and the afflictions are abandoned, and liberation is obtained. And that all comes through hearing.
아제 틱디 디나마 냠보요 게라고 틱도 배 냠보요래 야고요래
That again.
배나 게라나네 데 송도 간식 tö바이니 대규 아니 기부 간식으로 미시기 수수 tö바 체계이나 아니 대바 주고래스 대바 교이나 아니 스마 가와용 거래스 가와 주월에 되네 아니 개베미 월에 미네 띵인지 레벌 가와 템바니도 교수들 띵인지 토바 진에 토바 용 거래스 신의 도발에 되네 아니 담에도 왜 싫어요나 아니 디무메가 차도 그래서 대윤도 아니 다들 내지 인자 켜봤어야 되다 계지 뭐 쉬어래 아니 레벨 가와 템바니도 교로서 싫어지지 디무메가 교로 싫어지야 되면 랑게 시제 디니 녀외리 켜봐 디무메지 좀 있다 민수지 좀 무바세야기 좀 나시 아니 데나 퇴배 윤대지 레사나 kumbu라서 너기 메케시 안저 너르신다에는 구마가 키로라로 구무구라 한 퇴배 너디 구마 키야요 말아 가지고 무슨 심나가 여러 와서 너기 초레스 대단다 군대 좀 군도 뭔가 다좀 천장이 다좀 버텨야겠다 당운에도 가려 먼저 여자시나 콘동하게 말해 봤다 이래스 되게 왜냐면 천전한시레스 합주 명화되게 저거 쳤다. 저공원에 대다 퇴바들에서 저거 쳐들에서. 아니 예와 챔버 봉난 좀 봐줘. 다당 배당 때리기 초장이 그래서 지금 저거 소소라야 지금 때리는 초 야라나지 되나 깨지 쳐. 미 야라나 태는데 미 야로도 되는 양도 시디 퇴된 저기 시가 용사 개발인 거랬어. 아니 초 챔버난 리드 니 소소 깨제시에도 그냥 요인다. 소금나는 개와 구워 주스 다 체주 먹고 편 쉬우성도 하대로
And then the garland of birth stories goes on, essentially to say, from hearing one gets faith, from that faith one can strive to focus single-pointedly, cultivate calm abiding, then the mind is stable. From stability of mind or strong recollection comes wisdom. From wisdom, one reduces confusion. Therefore, hearing is important. It goes on to say, wisdom is the lamp that dispels the darkness of confusion. Wisdom is the supreme of wealth that can't be stolen by anyone. Wisdom is the drachompa, meaning the foe destroyer, that is the real weapon that destroys the deluded states of mind, desires, attachment, and so forth. Wisdom is the best friend, the most noble friend. Just go on. Yeah, wisdom is the quality through hearing that makes one an upright person. So when you meet noble beings, the best of gifts and in assemblies is the delight of the wise. That's all.
어디 딘데스 이제 다디 최퇴의 비행이 되고지.
Mm-hmm.
근데 니와 최도 최마를 좀 놓쳐왔어야 돼. 따라와 대세닝도 돌레스. 예, 직도 대진 구외 최니진스다. 최세니들 아니 구외군이 대외군이 최니고레스. 안딜라야 참여지야. 들라 구와다 같은데 지금 요레스. 지금 말레스. 최마오보데 더 산제다 다와레. 산제 다와나 산제나지 인자메 두시샤메군이 the
next subheadings are bottom of page 11, developing respect for the Dharma and those who teach the Dharma from the Sutra of Siddhigarbha. So here one should develop respect for one who teaches the Buddha Dharma and have the discrimination as if it is a Buddha teaching.
어디지데 니송다 시송보다 산지로 어디지 장살에 캥바당 최단 최마월에 최수단 대신 아니 바우터메디 송라 디니레 쿠바차와 송보다 스케럴레 양 라디 마웨 땡도 외베지 넘버지 바단데메 미기다 치기도지 통하시 다들 치고데보도 다도저 간다 최라 구셔치야 최마월로 구셔치야 지나서 하실래도 돼 남배 표기 남배 최대 최디게 아마 기제도서 티통보라서 만주 미드서 디 티통보 가는 대외를 가워예서 소식 거르고다 근데 말해 네, 송도. 아니, 추를 90개의 치드, 아니, 추 치기 가나 되제. 아니, 돼야 돼. 간시하게 추들을 90개의 치드 것도 되게 그러면서. 그래서 이제 대서 통보를 되는 거죠.
나게 마인드로.
선로 요마다는 아길레 아닌가 여러 단도
Yeah.
총라 아닌가 여러. 그래서 딘데리 같이 그래 돼. 추망군이 얘기 같이 단도의 상을 나가는 아니 슈디가는 매우체 최신의 미드도 가요 그랬어. 나한테 라로 롱바한테 내려와 라로 생기는데 뭐 지금 요 야가디 도가디 야가 통도 요라. 그래서 디 최단 최마로 90개월 시야 디가들라 먼저 추글 슈디 생기티가는 슈디자 아니 카둘라도 장마치야 둘로 장마 코야 그래서 그래서 최년배 뒤들이나 최에서 둘로 장마 코야 카둘라도 제 장마치야 최로 90지야 제일은 수수 셈 수수 장마요나 제 고유도 장마요나 최년세 고유도 장마요나 셈 담아용 거라 셈 담아요나 가르나야 즉 신야래 범야래 두 성마 야고용 거요라 그래서 네 소남제사 때문에 깔지면 소남제사가
Listen filled with one-pointed faith and respect without any mockery nor disrespect for it. Worship the exponents of Dharma, producing the notion of them as resembling Buddhas. Offer them service and goods with things like thrones and so forth. And then goes on to quote from the Garland of Birth stories. Sit on a seat that is low when you're listening, and eyes imbued with joy, or drinking the nectar of the words. So here, the notion is that you respect the Dharma, so therefore you respect the teacher that's teaching the Dharma. And some people who first come across Tibetan Buddhism might see the Tibetan Lamas sitting on high thrones and think, why are they sitting up there? Why are they so high? Is that out of pride? That's not the case at all. The throne is high to show the respect to the Dharma. It would be a misinterpretation to think that they sit on high thrones because they do it out of pride for themselves. But in some countries where the Dharma has not yet spread, like barbarian lands, it could be this case that you see bad as good and good as bad. You misperceive. So therefore, when the Dharma is taught out of respect to the Dharma that's being taught, it is like on a lion throne, it's cleaned, the surrounding environment is cleaned. And if you wear clean clothes, it's good because it shows that you're ready, that your mind is ready to be clean, with the environment also clean. Then when you hear Dharma, it can settle into your mind and you can take it in. Not only that, but if that cleanliness attribute is fostered, merit is created. Sonam Sagara.
다단다 대야 깨럽나나 레송도 rab도 마베 된라도 최년예데 최신이게 된 대서들에 마와라 되고래서
Yeah.
산제기 송래 산제기 가래 먼저도 돼 rab도 마베 된라도 가르쳐내서나 근데네 공아제지 최년예데 아제지 어떤 볼 때는 말 걸을 하가 여서 아제 아제지나 아니 다절에 용거래 년도 네 팀어진 차사라로 네 커보고 네 팀어진 차 마제제나 마제지 공부라 연대이 주면 먼저 추신이데 사공고나가 되거든 사도도가는 추되기면다로 이나신 먼저 연대 장예스니데 장서 미디제네 야쿠샵체 되나 네 신야도 야가 용거요 학과도 낭주에도 살롱도 도고지에서서 아주 배지 쿠샵체에 있는 수수심을 가능한다 도난도 야가 용거야 그래서 야구 용거요 어디 김진데 내지 rab도 마에 땡라 독사데 김진데레서와
And then the reason why we have these quotations from Garland of Birth stories where it says, sit on a seat that's very low, fully develop the glory of discipline, see with eyes imbued with joy and so forth, while drinking in the nectar of the words. Here, the lower seat shows that you're respecting the words of the Buddha and that you're listening, not tainted by pride, thinking that, oh, like, I know more, which in fact, which we'll follow when we look at the three faults of the vessel, isn't it? That the vessel is overturned, so nothing can go into it. If you have pride, nothing can kind of go in. So salam idok bagula ke means that so that you are a receptacle that can get insights into the Buddha Dharma. For that to happen, first you have to show respect and show that you're open to it. And that's why practitioners take a low position.
알아봐 뒤에배니 넘버기 센트웨베스 뒤만서 하나는 저 년에 가래라나 하나는 심규 뒤야 체두인서 어디고 거요
Yeah.
심나래야 당아去年에 가래서나 말하는 심 저방에 뭐 심디게 파뉴다 아니 심 상보도 야게 체두 이게 요 삼이나 뒤에배니 넘버기 있어야 돼 저年도 상무든 데 당고를 해서 봐
Right. And then the correct attitude, while having joy and drinking the nectar of the words, really the sole purpose of Dharma is to subdue one's own mind. And if you have the correct attitude while listening, what we're trying to do is reduce invalid mental states or bad habits and foster good qualities.
아니 가단데메 미기타스 타철 따용디 심나라 가나르바 아지
Yeah.
알아서 와스타 딘데 섬데 다나 배고요 당아서 좀 장야는 좀 따야죠 그래 가난 지켜와들 겨워상고이 말하던데지 때 지중화데 국업상고이 아니 네 다지 네 국업데 추수 땅에메 아주 페미시야고이 삼딘데 뭐네 베제데 심가나지고네 따용디 아니 배 베제다야는 요에민요 로전시야는 요에민요
And that joy one should have, see with eyes imbued with joy, the joy of Dharma. One should understand one is so lucky, one is so fortunate to study the graduated stages of the path. And in that context, not to waste such an opportunity, so that when you read the text, you see the text, there's kind of like a joy around that.
아니 책이 뒤지 통하시스 먼저 책인데 배제 책 다되다 책 암전하는 거인데 배 먼저 뒤지도는 심 룰을 대화다 가와 쇼게그라
Yeah.
이나시 책도 저 배수수 직수고나라 한 줄을제 수고난 게 지금 쪽바디게 봐 책디게 매워서 된데스 된데스 텐제 아니 냥고래서 그렇다
And drinking the nectar of the words, when you see the Dhamma, when you listen to the words, imagine that there's like a bliss in the body, so that, one is cleaning one's impurities of body, one develops well-being.
구바지에 세직되어서 다 가냐게 최대는 구바지 아니 심 세직이 되가나 되제 냥고요래서라
And then second verse, bow down in respect and concentration, best of your ability, single-pointedly.
rabde tangla time yisde ane sem yile ya 직 timamebe tewa tangwa ganan tindeji kone ane yigi tago ya pena nebe mebe tsingmi nishin neba jik memba jik maji jila na neba de membe karishego shobuji we sim tingne jik gawoji ngane nyingirwa
Yeah.
dina shi je ane nyangu yo reswa tsingyeunde
With stainless and pure mentality, as patients heed a doctor's words, respectfully listen to the Dharma. So here, when a patient listens to a doctor's advice about how to heal, they're keen, they listen intently, like that.
아니 어디 된대고네 니 주인공 그랬지 다들 님배 수 다 년주 딜라지 최단 최모는 90개월세 그거지 다 년중을 들어와 년중을 됐음 봐 년중을 돼 가지는 여기 준선 봐 tun진도 시도 된 바스라 년주 되다
So that was just like a general look at the way, the listener and the giver of the Dharma teachings. Now it comes to the actual mode of how to listen in general.
다디 강한게도 저 문에시는 저 대지 씹어체 말아서 뭐지 단다 대전한서 니 달로 우습게 진단이 람림 배제 따고요라 제주 재산된 데기지 Yana Yandu, and Lam Rim dig pen, Lam Rim smoke, Jeromachin. And Lam Rim is all that bed in Turo Kashel, Mima will make a toy on Maria. And a penang ranzo. Ngabjunga Gutua in a Jami bed church in Maju was a bed Koranji Kasha. Tinegabro in a what the
Ndua.
Tandaro in the Javan around the Chile, round on the Lambrim died to Lambrim did that. How do the energy? Jugot is out and the Jawra Michinanima, Jutin Josresha, some Tinde some coin, did Chictachimo Yimba down. The Kugoya was Yimba down. And did Negachimo Yimba down. Tinde she and any co Katsu pe Dinda Drosha in Novia More, Kaleka.
Okay.
Those are big catch, those big catching board. Those are shin where the catching book operating the near.
It was mentioned in previously, if one has that joy on hearing the Dharma, then you won't become sluggish or disinterested. And you all have come to the class to hear the Lam Rim, the graduated stages to Buddhahood. You've put effort into that. And it is good to know that. It is good to hear this and study this Lam Rim again and again to understand the benefits of Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings. In some generations, you would not come across such a teaching. So, for example, in 1959, China invaded Tibet, and there was no opportunity after that to contact this teaching. And in India, due to some freedom, we can face it, and that is due to His Holiness who holds these traditions. And in that above context, we should be able to see that it is precious, it is holy, it's a good opportunity we should take. And understanding that precious opportunity, we should not be nyopto, which means like lazy or can't be bothered.
Nimbezum nöge Jönsum war Tunje de Jutu Dembas, nöge Jönsum de Hare, nö Kapo Barwa. Ane nö Kapo, nö Timaji, nö Shabde Wasra.
Right. And then listening free of the three faults, with the analogy of the three faulty vessels, a vessel that is upturned, a vessel that's stained, and a vessel with a hole in it.
Nö Kapo Benala, Chutugumarwa Barwa. Hina Shing Ananzo, Ane Chu Nimbe Katula, Simdi de Madeoji, Shandala Jutu Edre, Darwa.
Yeah.
Lubuti de Simdi, Pardon, a culture, Midila Karche, or Gigi Roden Josdoa.
Yeah.
Dilla no kabuba, so
Right, the upturned vessel, then nothing goes in, is it? So the mind is not there, even though the body's there. The mind is revolving on what so-and-so said, so you're not attentive. Overturned vessel.
Da no ya kat lanshavina, no din zangmaji mena, dina kalado luchina trola rudarwa.
Yeah.
Dina shi nganazo che nyende, simdi devine, kulon de, ji ngaje, tado, dinsim, nusim, dindegi kulon, timajin, hawade, tebochimi chola, ranjin zigi kulon lena, no timajin charwa. De ina ne kulon de mizang kulon gyönjin ji chönyen de delaya ne chimajin charu yores.
The second example of a faulty vessel is one that has some contaminant, such as food or a stain in it. And this is another just to the motivation being incorrect. If you listen to the teachings with pride, jealousy, hatred, competitiveness, or whatever, particularly with the Mahayana vehicle, we should not have a mind tainted with self-cherishing or self-interest. So that would be examples of a tainted vessel.
Da dine ne shabde was de any Koran sim Koran digal ma de jela kare la che chemenal ma de yoshwa.
Yeah.
Dila ne shabde oreta.
Sumbadirva. So the third one then is you have the vessel upright and it's clean, but there's a hole in it. So then you don't recall whatever was said. You know, it's like a leaky vessel. You don't recall it.
지난다 대 년보라 네 당고 아니 그 꿀고 당마지고네 아니 최니 아니 최년바자마세 아니 셈디 디가라야 다대로가라 대고야 대와자마데 베 텐시 디가라 덴지 대고야 어딘데지 캐주 숨상제 아니 최년거래서 다전다 디시기요로
Yeah, so that those three don't occur, that comes down to your motivation. It should be good motivation. Secondly, you should be in the present moment. And thirdly, you should be mindful of that present moment with
어디게
recall.
최년배다 년주 캐주직 근데
두시축.
니와데 튼제 드시 둘라 드시 가르된 거래 삼다나 존숨 빠네 드시 가르된 거래 슬라위나 아니 랑라 네와데 드시 르와 최마월라 멤버데 드시 최니기 겐들라 멤버나베 드시 아니 제스템발라 멘지 드시 르와 최 낸데 냠슬람발라 네스베 드시 아니 드시시월라 주담베 드시 아니 최지층의 링도 처베 드시 시제 당하면서 드시 추지권에 아니 최년고래 스타디시고라
Next, with those three faults abandoned, how should one listen? One should listen with 6 discriminations or 6 perceptions, which are listed. So, contemplating the perception of oneself as a patient, contemplating the perception of one expounding the Dharma as a doctor, generating the perception of the instructions as medicine, generating the perception of persistent practice as the cure, contemplating the perception of the Tathagata as an exalted one, and generating the wish for the Dharma doctrine tradition to remain a long time. These 6 discriminations should be there, perceptions.
아디 드레르바다 랑라 마란조 섬나야고다나 랑라 네와데 드시세 아디 아니 베나 만도 당조 네와 미지 네와이나 아니 멤버된가 도로와
Yeah.
멤버된제 멤버가 시그라 제가 아니 나라서 대준주나 순도 타면난지 따가라 멤버가시 차고는 되잘라서 얘기 내가도 제시서 못하다 나라서 미지 나라서 미 타매바지 나대요나 아니 멤버가시 치고도 왔으면 땡고도 왔어 당나라서 되자시 당 공동하게 다 등상 심광 나자서 다 시기도로 문에서는 단다 스트레스 당 앵자르도 독자게 말해 문에서는 그래서 개 말해 독야 zaman 그래서 zaman 간에 연구를 봐 스트레스 당 앵자르티 더 디프레션도 간에 연구를 란진지 아제 차도 진심 아니 다 진심 되잖아는 좀 연구해라 그래서 연구를 나자 문에 소녀들 되게로 다 앵자르티 더 디프레션 더 스트레스도 거야지 셀 잡대요 소리 차대라
Yeah.
오늘 그것도 축스라고 지래다 오늘게 가면서 다 나정원에 가르스나 내문에 되는 뒤에 가서 나들 유모 투성하게 유모 종내 작곡에 탭대요 내가 삽천문한 시 차대요 그래서
Really, if we think about it, we are a patient, and a patient needs to see a doctor, as Shantideva says, just as the sick patient needs to rely on a doctor to heal. I need to mention that we, who are crazed by delusions, need to rely on the Dharma. Really, when we think about it, these stresses and anxieties, stress and anxiety, that's not a big deal. Because if you really think about the source of our delusions, self-cherishing, pride, competitiveness, the fact that we compete, these are really the crazy sickness. These are the sources of our sicknesses. Anxiety and depression, they are just like surface things. What we really need to understand is we're a patient because we're at the behest of the 3 deluded states of mind, the 3 poisons. No.
다들 내 최마월라 멤버들 두시 계세야데 빼나가나서 아니 미지 내 롱디 백근선다 내 차버지 나대나 아니 멤버 캐버지 투그로 아제 멤버 캐버스네 멤버 등산 칠레버시그로 와 스페셜 된데와 아니 된데지니 운디 가버지그로 와 디테는 심나 가버지그로 와 아니 대제니 될라니 그로 와 그거 띵그로 와 테나시 에는 안아서 최신이 될라 교회신이들라 아니 배 야고직 당고 개개식 야고직 체야 그 야고직 체네 아니 되게시 되려야지 그거당 가신당 어딘데 체네 아니 다디 멤버나 신기 말한서 답지 디지니 그 람도 되니 인 삼제 근데 그 두시 샤오레스 두시
Yeah. Next, contemplating the perception of the one expounding the Dharma as a doctor. It is the case that if we're sick, we seek out a specialist's advice, and in that light, we listen to what they say attentively. Just like that, we should seek out a spiritual friend, a good one, who knows how to teach us, but particularly in terms of the Four Noble Truths, of what to adopt and what to abandon on the path. So therefore one has that perception of the one who expounds that truth of Dharma as a doctor.
아드네 제스템을 메뉴 디시스 하나조다 네버지기 다 멤베제베 메 지테나 메들라 제데스 이제 투즈다다 딩상 그래서 먼저 맨사야도 추즈가그라로 추즈가제 사그르바 돈나시우치고 대나시 아니 최 송바보게 마최 냠내지나 그런 무슨 시장조데 아니 당하도 아니 베데 제데 체제 아니 베데 다 냠내 최 냠내 체제 마제베 체제 아니 최 마오고 송시장조데 최디 아니 제데 체제 마제베 체제 냠내 체가 체요레스로
And generating third one, the perception of the instructions as medicine. These days, when you get your medicine, oh, you're supposed to take it such and such a time. And people adhere to that quite strictly. Similarly, the advice of practicing Dharma, we should not forget the instructions and be able to recall them and follow what is said.
다드네 시바데 닌데 냠슨로 라네스베 두시 세드라와 새로 말아서 네와지게 멤베제베 멤마토나나 아니 네 타그마르와 아래 네 타그마르와 대나시 최 마베 템베 최게 당하데 냠스말라나나 아니 먼저 심줄레 핑게 마르와스 제가 디인자 아니 냠레 제도다 지 냠레메와 남라망보 속베 칙르 밀렌스니다 지 수수게 오늘 락렌촌에 매वे게 이게 마직 로야 되냐 정말 사야 망고직 제단이디 흘린기식이와 말해서 냠레메베 소소모 특hul레면서도
This next one then, the fourth point, generating the perception of persistent practice as a cure. So if you have the medicine from the doctor, but you don't take it, how could you heal? Similarly, you have heard the advice of Dharma, but you never practice. If you never practice, how can it benefit your mind? That would be like someone who hears a lot of Dharma and talks a lot, but does not practice. No.
그래서 나서 녀몽게 다 되자시다 좀 통마면은 녀몽게 대비 내시 찹침배 탭되거든요. 그래서 세상 당하게 되는데 렌직 렌이장 양슬람에 조금 말해 왜 람기 차 탐제상 보시니들네 좀밀로 숨줘봐 이 람기를 봐 차장을 다 뒤에지 아니 추비 균신도 니마 따과르지 냠네 제제 아니 균신제다 냠네 저래서 어디 숨고라
And as is stated, because we have been at the behest of the affliction since beginningless time, it is not the case that we just take the medicine once or twice or follow the instructions of Buddha Dharma once or twice, but we have to do it continually and we have to do it thoroughly from the beginning of correct reliance on the spiritual friend right up to the union of the two Buddha bodies. One should do that continually.
다디네마 된다 다워도 리시 다딜라 딘데송다 전진데 녜니 라디오 상괴 최셰 장스르와 최네 최네 야다 제나 네와 메지 제와 퇴바다 다지네는 소와 미뉴신 셰송도 좀년데 이 땅에 라디오 상괴 최망고지 셰샤 유스르와
야
지난지 최셰산저디 퇴바체데 네 냠래야 오지 마체비나 아니 먼저 내가 카시 미 maybe me sasla me masawa cheje ane susu chongzhong ni xi zhong ni de de wa de nan xin susu ne chue shen jo de nyang le ma chen na ane dong ye nyong je susu dong ye nyong je de ya da as ta de lab je de kya do
Yeah, so then, subsequently, there are a lot of points reiterating these discriminations. But there's a verse here, page 14, where Buddha says, if after I've explained the excellent Dharma, you do not apply it well, although you heard it, it's like with patients whose pouches are full of medicine, but who still cannot cure their own diseases. So you heard the Dharma a lot, but you don't apply, like people who end up with all this medicine, but still are sick because they don't take it.
ne jun ju de le song do lu ji de da che ja ni chi zang ju we ji xi me xie la wa zang xin ne wa ta le pen ju ran wo me ge ne pen yuan zu ma lo ji de ne wa le pen ge ma ro wa se wa ti nan xi ne ji nga rang zu chi ji guo ma meng guo ji lo je de de yi na ti ge tuan da de yan le ma che na na su sim ju le pen ge ne wa le pen ge ma re sun le pen ge ma re what
And-
this one we are
Sandy Davis highlights it, isn't it? People just read the medicine label, but they don't take it. How can it benefit the patient? Similarly, if you just read the Dharma, but you don't practice, what's the benefit in that?
da de jerum chen ge ti da de lam ri chen mo da do do re de da de ne ga chen mo re xie song be nen de ni se ro nen de nyam se la ne se be du xi xia de xin yin tan be ro xin yin tan be lang do ji ne na la len de che wa de de yang xie gu re xie ba la te gu re se are
Dharma?
ang bu nyam len che wa la xie gu re se
Leona.
xin yin tan be lang do ji ne na la len de che wa de de yang lang len che wa la len che dan xie gu re se 라는 지대 쉐발라 tö그레스와 아니 tö베 고바데 가르스나 tö네 쉐베 저 고바야 제바 임베스 아니 tö네 쉐베 저 가르스나 tö베 된 누거든 뜀베라네 누거다 뜀사 제다냐 수수 네법단 뜀베고네 수수 심관단 뜀베고네 수수 네단가 뜀베고네 냠네 치단 쉐베고네 저거르메지 아직 왜 저 냠네 치세들 담다 람산 차단 제도고 말아라 란진지 장주선 동반의 얘기다 란진지로 제 조금 말해서 람산 디제브나시 연구 말아 따디고 갈래 지금 이 말에 니마 숨숨 아니 미니 미숨도도 갈래로 장제 냠네 쳐버려서 제가 랑 뉴버다 듀인사데 달랍제 첨보래 네 당아 첨보래서 봐
Okay. And then the next part is Lama Tsongkhapa encouraging us or kind of pressing us to practice. This is actually very similar to the great Lam Rim text, when we should practice according to our ability, that putting into practice the topics of adopting and discarding modes of conduct as advised by the spiritual teacher. In order to do that, in order to adopt and abandon, you have to know. And to know, you have to listen. But the purpose of knowing and listening is to do. Therefore, it's crucial that you put into meaning what you've heard to the best of your abilities. Here, this is a very, very big point, that you practice according to your ability. It would be impractical to think that, with our self-cherishing, we can suddenly become a bodhisattva all at once. But we should understand that day by day, step by step, we can slowly move towards that. So it says, practice to the best of your abilities.
그래서 배나 다 chanju 생기 냠내지도 동부 당용 검이야 되와
Yeah,
그래 동부 당용 검 근데 마신 진소세 다도 수수라 가리 침모인 바디 시어야 되와
yeah,
아니 대신에서는 아니 신도 다 바로 되고네 다 가리 침모인자 바로 되는지 두고도 좀 샘들 내용 제가 되게 발음들 교림들 도스체냐 또 그러면 남상에 심지신의 편법바식도 심지신이 되는데 때도 말에다 안아서 저 통마면 라지지 공 아가 뭐를 체딜레이네 배충dio 간에 롭라단 두전나네 란진지 랍샤여라 파메 란진지 랍 롭레 란진지 랍 지조 란진지 랍 베드 란진지 랍예냐냐는 것이 지금 란진지 야고 말했으니 더 낭베 태버치 배치면서 요 말해라 저는 점링 누구냐고 김제 되래 또 동의 규제냐 랍제 되대라 아니 동의 규제냐 연대 요랬다 거기 임버러 왔다라
So to give an example, prior to cultivating uncontrived altruism of bodhicitta, you need a mind of equanimity. And after that, you need to recognize beings as having been your dear parent. And then, in dependence on that, the thought of seeing the kindness and then the wish to repay the kindness and so forth. Only through going through these sequential steps can you think how to help others. Can you think how to cultivate altruism? One cannot do it all at once. Fulfill the needs of others. Yeah, but so what this is saying is that you can't suddenly have a countermeasure for self-interest and self-cherishing, because we've been following self-interest and self-cherishing since beginningless time, and it's thick. And also we hear that at schools, we hear that from our parents, do things for yourself. But it's only in the context really of Mahayana Dharma that you hear about the demerits of self-interest, that you hear about the faults of self-cherishing. And if we look at the world, why is there so much suffering in the world? Because the cause is suffering, the result is suffering. And that is self-cherishing.
What time? This should be busy.
Yeah, the clock's gone to sleep. It's 8:15. 8:15, Gishla.
8:15.
Yeah, come on. Oh, that's a bit quick. That's 8. Either mine's slow or Gishla's is fast. What do you think? Is it 8:15? It's that's a happy medium. Ding Disha, Gishla. Shepa yuna chupdun. The similar comments.
Tade dipa tsawas jo ani tishishibwa jo tambe dishis ngawa de chu sumbo bola jomden de je jesu ne gine kuba jawre swa.
Then the next one is contemplating the perception of the Tathagata as a valid being or exalted being.
Chu sumbo bola jomden de jesu ne kuba jawsa. Derewa ta ngarazo manzo ta chu she de manzo so shin jo ke marwa zamling de la jomden de ge. 아니 셈상버시 난 그런다 디기가 자와디 셈상버시 아니 추억 내로 쉐고레 셈바 시와고레 도졸라데네 디기 용고레 송거데 좀 되지 송신조 인자 아니 좀 된대지 예 거딘지 스트네 아니 쿠바제 냥고레 해야돼 구주도 알아.
There's a big point here in contemplating the perception of the Tathagata as a valid being. The fact that Buddha came to this world and taught what he taught. The Dharma was not taught by us. The Buddha recognized kind heart and recognized that the root of well-being is that kind heart. And he also taught that the Dharma means to subdue your mind. So if we can recognize that, then we can see how Tathagata is valid.
아드네 두바디 추유스나 린드네메 디시사디 추디데베 냠발라 테네 아니 제베 템바 직딘디 유르넨 치마노 스타랑서 개왕오 만남 체데르 방랑서 단다 추 냠바딜라 테네 추 녜운디 추 냠바딜라 테네 개베 소남 시사베 소남 되게 아니 지담블린딜라 아니 대버지메 템바디 유르넨 데게 셈제망 그 생각이 디기도라 편도치베여와 재산 어디 내 돈나 아니 오네다 디지 셈제망고 동에세도 인자 도와라 핑기도 안디 인자 디바 유르네 내로지 시제네
Here, from one's heart, one needs to make the heartfelt wish or request, generating this is the last one of the 6. Yeah, generating the wish for the Dharma tradition to last long. So everything that we've listened to creates positive spiritual energy or merit, that we dedicate that in context of the great vehicle, that the doctrine lasts a long time, because if the doctrine lasts a long time, it will benefit sentient beings by reducing and removing their suffering, and that's what we want.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Questions now? Any online? With no questions, we dedicate now. Me contame.
Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, my dedication praises events. Like victorious one fell slaughtered 3 times, the right perform the noble body self-esteems. May the king of Dharma some kind of way of Dharma practice and flourish. May the abundance of obstacles be passed by, and all circumstances be complete. The weak mountain which will put endure, souls to be of the world. Parably time, his encapsulated teach. May all the holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. May we understand their teachings and grants my greatly needs. It makes extremely clear the path of his unification of emptiness and compassion. The lotus order it is encapsulated siege. May all the holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You uphold the purest moral maker, to serve as the bountiful will. The thank preserving and spreading of Janelle's victorious doctrine. We modestly acknowledge your magnificent greatest honor and true. Thank you myself and others, your disciples. Please to return. Relations of myself and others in the true times. May the teachings of the conqueror both enter and and the prayer for the of Lam Rim on the Richie. Fearless teacher, assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Charlotte Benz and Pratika Williams, victorious Roseanne, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite thanks, please so the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. All the spreading among these precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, give all the hour of patience that is near the storage, incomparable medical word, you I make. Also, civil wonderly for the state of Victoria's son's teachings. The whole gateway to a door we have both happiness emerged. And for all mother living beings, you have the heart to peace with one of the regular laws. Near the free kills. In the great way to avoid the death, the children of the Victorian one. Like smile of the incarnation.
Good night.